Welcome to the Godly Playroom at First United Church in Wetaskiwin, Alberta. My name is Ruth Lomax, and my preferred pronouns are they, them. I wonder how you are today. It's been a while, but it's good to see you again, and to know that you're maybe willing to get ready for a story. I wonder what you need to help you today, to be ready to worship together. Some people like to have a candle to light, whether that's a flame or a battery operated type. Some people like to have something creative with which they can work, maybe some art materials, pencils, crayons, a pen and paper to do some journaling, knitting, lots of different ways to help us move a little more deeply sometimes, so to engage that other part of our brain. And some people like to have a glass of water or a cup of coffee or something to refresh them partway through as we share a feast together a little bit later. Know that you can pause the video at any time if you need to go to the bathroom or do something else to attend to your own care. But if you can set aside the time, it's about half an hour to 40 minutes, just to be present and to work through this process. We hope that it will help deepen your awareness and presence of the Holy. So let's take a deep breath together. In through the nose, and out through the mouth. And another one. And one more. And you might want to roll your neck a little bit, or roll your shoulders just a little bit, and help yourself get settled. There's that wall calendar that shows us with just a couple more weeks in the season of Epiphany, and then everything changes. Wow, we are getting so close to that time of Lent. Almost to the end of the color green. And I wonder if you're ready for a story. Oh, we're not quite ready. Let's light our candle. If you want to get your candle ready, you can do that. I've got this one here. And we remember that once there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And the more they followed him, the more they wondered who he was. And one time, they just had to ask, "Who are you?" And once, when they asked him that question, he said, "I'm the Good Shepherd." And another time when they asked him that question, he said, "I am the true vine, and we are the branches." And another time, when they asked him that question, he said, "I am the gate." Go figure. But today we remember, one time when they asked him, he said, "I'm the light." And the light shines and isn't diminished the more it's shared. I'm enjoying a little more light every day outside, just as the days get a little bit more sunshine, a little bit longer in the morning and evening. I'm going to put this candle up here so that it's out of the way and get set up for the story, and I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. Welcome back. So, I hope you got all the things you need for feast and creating a little bit later in your response time. If you're wanting to find this story when you're in the Godly Playroom, the story materials are on a tray, and you'll find them on the New Testament shelf in the kind of that side back corner. We've been there before. But you'll also need some of the disciples from here as part of the Easter shelf, and so I've got the figure for Jesus and a few of the other disciples. Wow. Are you ready for a story? Hmm. Once, there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And whenever he came close to people, lives changed. They could see things they'd never seen before. They could do things they'd never done before. They became well. As they heard him and followed him, he went from town to town in his country with his friends. And he talked about a kingdom, but it wasn't like any kingdom they'd ever lived in. And it wasn't like any kingdom they'd ever visited or had even heard of. But he taught them the ways of the kingdom. And then one day, while he was traveling through a foreign country, a woman came and stood in his way. He tried to go by her without saying anything, but she moved to confront him. She was a foreigner. She didn't even worship the same God, and a woman. And in those days, she shouldn't have even been out by herself. It was embarrassing. Again, the man tried to go by her. Even his friends said, "Leave her alone. She won't stop bothering us." But she continued to block the man, and she said, "Son of David, have mercy on us. My daughter is sick. She needs your help." But the man wouldn't talk to her. And still she got in his way. And this time he said, "I have been sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." And he went to go by. And this time she threw herself on the ground in front of him and she said, "We need your help. My daughter is sick." And the man got angry. And he scolded her the way you would a dog who is taking food from the children's table. But the woman looked at him and said, "Sir, even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." And he was amazed. And when he came close to her, he changed. He reached out his hands and helped her get up. And then he said, "Woman, great is your faith. Go in peace. Your daughter is well." And then he continued on the way, wondering at how she seemed to know another way of the kingdom. And the woman went home, and she found her daughter well. I wonder what you like best about this story. I wonder what the most important part of this story is for you. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have all the story that we need. I wonder what those disciples thought after that man let the woman teach him something. I wonder what they talked about as they continued on their way, or what they were beginning to think about the kingdom. I wonder what the woman told her daughter when she got home, or what the daughter told her mom. I wonder what part of this story is especially for you today, or where you are in this story. This is one of my favorite stories. Not so much because of how the man initially acts, but because of the persistence of the woman. And so we remember that woman, who maybe shouldn't have even been out on the road by herself. And yet there she was. And we remember those friends who followed, who perhaps thought they knew about this kingdom, but maybe they learned something new that day too. And that most amazing man who still had something to learn and was willing to learn it. You can begin to think about what your work in response to this story might be. Perhaps you've got some art materials close by, or maybe you need to pause the video and do a little more wondering still with some other folks in your household. I'm going to put the story back on the shelf and get my art things ready to go. I wonder what you found for your work. I have a bit of a work shelf or a work board here and some paper, and I felt like coloring, and so I picked up the crayons today, and there are so many different colors there. And I was thinking a little bit of the story, I guess, because I can't imagine what it would be like if we only had one or two colors. I mean, how boring the world would be. And we forget that sometimes, that the difference is a good thing. And it's a little bit something that this story reminds me of. So, I think Think about that woman. And how much risk it took for her to be out in public and the scriptures don't ever tell us why she was, or if there was anybody else in her life except her daughter. And how much she must have loved that daughter to be willing to risk so much. I wonder if you've ever risked something big. Maybe you've said something to someone. I think that's the other part about this story, is the woman being willing to stand up for what mattered to her. Even when it wasn't acceptable or appropriate. Even when people told her to go away, leave them alone, right? Don't bother me. I like to think that doesn't happen so much anymore between women and men, but I think it still does. I think it even happens a bit in our community with people who are different. We'd rather they just leave us alone. You shouldn't be here. Think about some of the people who maybe don't have a home of their own. Sometimes they dress differently, or maybe they don't have access to a bathroom, so they can't always be as clean as some of us like. We make judgments about people all the time that way. I think there's times when we're tempted, like those disciples, to say, "Oh, just leave us alone. Shouldn't be here." But she was there. And she didn't give up. And I know a lot of people who complain about how bad things are, or things need to change, or you need to do things differently, but they're not always the ones that show up to do something about it. I think that's what we need more of, like that woman, people that are willing to show up, to speak out for what matters. She was asking for healing for her daughter. She wasn't asking to, even for a job, right? Or a place to live. She just thought the man could help her. wonder how easy it is for you to ask for help. I think that's always an easy thing to do. I don't find it easy. Maybe other people do. But I'm better at asking for help for other people. Maybe she was too. Easier to ask for help for her daughter. I wonder who you're tempted to ignore. That's a harder one to admit, isn't it? I find it is anyways. It's part of what I like about this story. The man changed. He was willing to let the woman teach him something about being kind, about mercy, and that those are the ways of the kingdom too. I wonder, when we think about those people who who annoy us, or the ones that we might be tempted to ignore, I wonder what they have to teach us about the kingdom. I think I'm going to color for a little bit more. If you want to do some more work, you can pause the video and restart it whenever you're ready. Or you might like to get your feast things ready. And I'll see you back here in a little bit for our prayers. Well, I wonder what you chose, or how your work went. The good thing about coloring with crayons is there isn't a lot of cleanup, and I don't get nearly as much paint on me or clay on me that I do sometimes. So let's say our prayers together before we feast. I wonder what you're thankful for today. I'm really thankful to be in a warm space and to have something to eat and to have enough of a mind to be able to both tell a story and to think about it and wonder about it and to have good company with which to do that. How about you? What are you thankful for today? Well, I kind of hope you have to pause the video so that you have more time to say thank you. But for this and so many other blessings, we thank you, God. And most of all, we thank you for being with us continually. So I have a glass of water. And I have some grapes. Not quite grape season at the moment, but they looked okay when I was in the store. They are very crunchy. And just a wee bit tart. It's hard to believe we're already in February. And this year, Lent starts very early. I wonder how things are going at school or at work. Sometimes it's a hard time of year for people. We come through that cold, cold time after Christmas, and we aren't quite ready for spring yet, but we're ready for spring. And sometimes it feels like winter will never quite end. But it does. So it helps to remember what are all those things that we're thankful for. You know, when we start feeling a little bit sad or kind of like we just want to crawl back into bed and hibernate, let's start making a list of some of those good things in our life. Good memories. Or things that we might like to do when the weather warms up a bit. Or things that we can do while the weather's still cool. I wonder if you've been skating this year. There's hardly enough snow to toboggan. That's something I always like doing in the winter. I used to cross-country ski, but I haven't done that for a while. It's just nice being able to get outside again with the weather that little bit warmer. You might even want to take some time to think about, what do you know about the ways of the kingdom of God? You know some of the best ways. I wonder how big a list you can get. I think it's time for us to change the light. So watch what happens. So the light is just in this one place and time right now. But then we change it, and something amazing happens. It spreads out, and it fills this room. And then it finds its way to wherever you are. And it'll go with me wherever I go this week. And it will remind me whenever I see the light of that woman who on first glance was a little bit embarrassing, but who had something very important to teach that most amazing man. About kindness and mercy and the ways of the kingdom. Until we meet again, God bless. Be well. And look after one another.